was a record-breaking year for tourism here in Toronto, with more than 28 million visitors in 2025, generating more than $9 billion in spending. Andrew Weir, President and CEO of Destination Toronto, is joining me live now as the city looks ahead to another big tourism year ahead with the arrival of the FIFA World Cup. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. Starting off, so record-breaking numbers. So we are above pre-pandemic levels, just to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing what an engine tourism is for the city. And, you know, on a snowy day like this, but even now, there are thousands of visitors in the city, even on a day like today, because you've got meetings and conventions driving that business. And what we're seeing is all year long, it's driving new spending into our city. And this year will be no different. We'll see, because of the World Cup and all the various things that drive visitation into the city, we see more and more of that spending coming in, really driving, supporting jobs and businesses all through the community.
What are some of the factors that are behind a record-breaking year for 2025?
It's a combination of things. Yeah. So what we saw was a real surge in growth in the international markets, was part of it. And that's been important. Those markets are still just rebounding from the COVID period. We increased some investment in sales and marketing in markets like the UK and Germany. And we saw those as the highest performing markets, like 12% up from the UK, 10% from Germany. But Canadians are also traveling here. I think there's some reluctance to travel south to the US right now. And so Toronto is well positioned to benefit from that. And we saw, of course, the Blue Jays had an impact this past year. The concerts, the Rogers Stadium edition, that created a lot of new momentum and a lot of new reasons to come to the city. We find that people are really traveling for what they're passionate about. If they're holding a ticket for an event, that'll motivate the trip, and that may be what starts the trip. But then once they're there, they're visiting businesses all throughout the destination, so that impact spreads, quite broadly all throughout the city.
Right. And when it comes to domestic travel, Canadians, the amount of Canadians coming here to Toronto up by 3%. Are you surprised by that increase, considering there's been such a massive boycott of the U.S. and that increase only being at about 3%?
Well, that continued increase from the domestic market, that's already building on the strength from before, because all through the pandemic period, and Canadians could only travel within the country. And then it opened up and we could travel other places, but we had that very high level of visitation for a period of time. And the concern was it would start to erode, that Canadians would forget that they enjoyed traveling within their own country. But what we've seen is it's actually taken hold, and Canadians continue to travel throughout the country. And so we benefit from having this large population area here in Southern Ontario. And again, people come in for events, for meetings, just for a great weekend. But we're seeing people coming from other parts of the country now as well. And on the other hand, we did see a decline in the U.S. travel last year. A little bit of volatility in that market for all the reasons we know. So it's so important that we're seeing that domestic growth and the international growth to offset that loss from the U.S.
There was one sector here that saw a huge increase, and it's what you call the meetings market, the major meetings here in Toronto, the big conventions and so on. Tell us about that increase, because the amount of delegates that came here last year compared to the year before, it's a huge, massive increase.
Yeah, it is, and it's continuing to grow, and it's such an important part of the overall visitor economy and the overall economy of Toronto, because you've got thousands of visitors coming in at a time for one meeting. So one meeting could bring 2, 3, 8,000 people. It could be a medical meeting or scientific or financial meeting. And so not only are those delegates spending when they're here, they're visiting, they're spending for a few days, but maybe their family's coming, they're staying for the weekend. They meet from Tuesday to Thursday, and then their family comes Friday to Sunday. Or they discover the city and say, this is a place I could come back to. This is a place that I could see investing, a place that I could see moving my company. And so it becomes a catalyst for future investment and growth. And so the meetings are such a powerful driver.
Yeah, those conventions, 51% increase there year over year. Lastly, with the World Cup coming in June, what are you estimating that will do when it comes to numbers here for 2026?
I think with World Cup, it'll have a huge impact, both in the moment, but then also beyond. We've got to look at it both ways. So in the moment, we will see tens of thousands of visitors coming to the city. There's no question about that. And just great activation from locals that all want to be part of this energy. And so that's in the moment. But then beyond that, we've got an audience of billions that are looking at Toronto on TV. And that first match on June the 12th, it's the only match in that time slot. So all the World Cup's eyes will be on Toronto at that point. The city's going to look great. And so we're building for the short term, but then also that long term, that long tail of growth, I think is going to be so important for the city.
All right. Andrew Weir, President and CEO of Destination Toronto, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.